Hello and thanks for joining me again. For today's video I've come out to the Shropshire town of Bridgnorth and I'm going to show you around a site known as the Hermitage. It's on a couple of different levels, so I'm going to clamber up to the top level because I think that's possibly the most interesting. There's a little path just over there. It's quite hard to find, and I'll talk to you again in a minute. Well, these are the caves on the upper level of the Hermitage. Quite difficult to see because unfortunately there's a rather hefty security fence around it. It's a lot more overgrown than it was last time I came as well, but we'll have a mooch around and we'll see what we can find. Now, the Hermitage is actually a scheduled ancient monument. Its earliest records go back as far as the 1st century, the 1st century. It's quite likely that they were actually excavated even earlier than that, in pre-Christian times. Now, the history is a bit tricky because it varies depending on whose version of it you look at, and also the names also are tricky, not only because they're all very similar, but different organisations seem to use different names, and also you might find my pronunciation's not correct. But anyway, basically it goes something like this. A Mercian Prince by the name of Aethelardestan came here in 924 AD to reside in solitude and contemplation as a hermit studying religion before his short reign as king. He reigned as king of Mercia for just 4 weeks and was probably never actually crowned. When he died, his younger brother Aethelstan took the crown, and because Mercia had now been brought under the control of Wessex by King Edward the Elder, he actually became the first king of England. So, although this site wasn't actually home to the first king of England, it was home to his younger brother who reigned for just a very, very short period before our very first king, Aethelstan. Now, because of the security fencing, it's very difficult to get a good look at the site from here. It's hard to believe it's actually a scheduled monument, considering how sort of isolated it is, overgrown it is, and there's no signage or anything here to indicate its history. The fencing isn't here because of the ancient monument scheduling. The fencing's here because of a very unfortunate incident back in 2009. On Monday, April the 6th, 2009, a group of teenagers decided to build a fire inside one of the caves and camp there. At around 1:45 in the morning, 16-year-old Aidan Brooks was killed and an 18-year-old girl seriously injured when the rock above the campfire collapsed on top of him. Basically, the heat from the fire had caused the rock above to fracture and collapse onto him. I believe this is the location where that happened, just here. Very unfortunate. As I say, I believe that's the reason why there's fencing here, not because of its listing. The location's very hard to find now because I think most of the front of the caves have collapsed over the years. But around about the 1920s, a custodian's cottage was built here using one of the caves, and it was occupied by Bill and Ginny Norton until about 1939. I suspect that this is probably where that was, looking at the photos. This is where I believe the chapel was, where Aethelardestan spent his time in contemplation. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in there to have a look around. I'll have a look in a minute. But legend speaks of a set of stairs within the chapel that can be seen by some people but not by others. So it'll be interesting to have a mooch in there and try and see if I can see any stairs. Just going back to that tragic accident where the poor lad lost his life here, you can just see, well, there, where the sandstone meets the gravel beds. So as you can imagine, that sandstone there, any thin layer of sandstone at the top there is going to be pretty weak, because it's not going to be bound very well to that shale bed there. I did actually bring a torch with me. Unfortunately, stupidly, I've left it in the car. So it's quite a decent walk, so I ain't going all the way back to fetch it now. But here we go, we can have a quick look around inside. There's quite a lot of rubbish in here, isn't there? So here we are then at the bit that I believe was the chapel area. Not really much left to see now, unfortunately. Just take a wander in and see what we can find. A lot of smoke, or soot on the walls there. A little alcove. Oh, and lo and behold, look. Staircase, we'll fancy that. That is interesting. That staircase comes up just the other side of that opening there, and I suppose at one time it must have led to another room. But as you can see, there's a huge amount of erosion happened in the years. Well, it's been here for a very, very long time. So, don't know if we can see any more. Let's just have a little wander, see if we can see anything else. There we go. As I say, I believe that this is the site of that dreadful accident. Not 100% sure, but looking at the photos, I'd say it was probably here. Right, well, I've managed to get my way in here. Now it remains to be seen whether I can get back out again. So I'll have to turn the camera off for a minute, bear with me, and I'll join you again in a minute. I'm just making my way back down to the lower levels caves now, but on the way is this really strange feature. Not quite sure what to make of that. Don't know if anybody has any suggestions. It's been very neatly and squarely cut. Maybe it was lined up to be cut open but never actually completed. Who knows? Right, so we're back on the lower levels again now. Apparently there are records of hermits living here in the reign of Edward III, and in 1727 the caves are also said to have been occupied by witches at various times. There we go. Let's go and have a closer look. You can see from the structure here that there was obviously some sort of habitation here at some time in the past. Archway. There's even like a concrete lining there through the back. Over that way. There are several entrances around here, by the way, but they've all been backfilled. And the purpose of bringing the torch was to have a peek inside them. So unfortunately, stupidly, I've left it in the car, but never mind. You see there's several crevices there, look, man-made. Again, more concrete. I'm wondering actually if this was the location of the warden's home. I'll try and see if I can line something up in a bit and have a look and do a better comparison. Let's carry on looking in the meantime. Yeah, as you walk around, there's a whole series of these openings, all of which have been backfilled. I strongly suspect they're not very deep, not very extensive, but virtually impossible to get into at the moment. There's certainly no denying that this was inhabited at some time, probably relatively recently. You see there are evidence of the brickwork. I suppose that's where the roof was there, look. More concrete. perhaps beams for a floor there. And again, another opening that's been backfilled. But thinking of the Kinver rock houses, that could well be a pantry when you look at the layout of that. So yet another opening here that's been backfilled. Doesn't look too deep, probably not very extensive. Yeah, another backfilled entrance there. It looks like there's another one tucked away in amongst the trees there as well. Not really going to climb all the way across there to those, but suffice it to say, I really don't think they're particularly deep. Probably not very extensive at all. So that's it for the Hermitage then for today. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and so forth if you possibly can. It'll all be much appreciated. Not quite sure where we're going next time. I'll leave you in suspense, as it were, and hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot, and don't forget to subscribe. Cheers for now.